Everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know why you're all late. I can't even. What happened to everybody? Hello, welcome. Where's everybody at? Why are you all late? Where is everybody? Hello, hello, hello. We're ready to go. We're fired up. Your Saltwater Guide with another great seminar. Thanks everybody on Megaphone, Apple, and Spotify for joining us today. It's Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. I hope you had a phenomenal time out there. The weather was absolutely gorgeous. We're going to talk about fishing on your private boat today and what's going on. And those of you that are late, where you been? I've been waiting for you here for 15 minutes. Thanks for joining us. And those of you on Spotify and Apple and Megaphone, you weren't late. You were here right on time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But we have a really, really good one for you today. Today's podcast is phenomenal. We're bringing in an old friend of mine. We grew up together working on the sport boats, working for Don Brockman. He's going to join us in a little bit. Marty Wakefield, he is a commercial fisherman, yacht captain, sport boat, deckhand extraordinaire. He's been around for a very long time. He's been trying to catch that albacore up north. He's going to have some insight, and he's going to be in town for a few days. So we'll get Marty on the show here in about 15, 20 minutes. He'll join us, and he'll have a lot to talk about, a lot to tell you about what he's seeing out there as far as the water goes and everything else. But this was a pretty spectacular weekend as far as fishing goes. And we always talk about Opsin Fluorocarbon on Mondays, and today we'll be showing you a little bit about Opsin as we go along with the day. So once again, thank you all for joining us today, and this one should be good. I think you guys will get a kick out of this. We're going to talk about fly lining, how important it is this time of year. It's going to be all about fly lining for the next few months. Fly lining is when you fish with no weight at all. You're using just a hook tied to the end of your fluorocarbon, and your fluorocarbon's tied to your main line going right onto your reel. No beads, no swivels, no sinkers. As soon as you put anything on besides your hook, you're no longer fly lining. A lot of guys this weekend and during the week last week were asking me about how come the same guys always seem to get bit when they're on a sport boat? How come the same guys always seem to get bit when they come with me on my private boat? What are they doing that's different than me? And I was like, well, first of all, they're probably fly lining. They're probably fishing with no weight at all, none. Not a swivel, not a bead, not a sinker. Why do you add all that crap to your line? You add all that crap to your line because you don't know how to cast. That's why you add all that crap to your line. So I'm telling you, most people aren't doing all the things right. That's why they're not successful day in and day out. Over on our website, yoursaltwaterguide.com, I talk about how important everything is and that every single thing matters. You do not want to put anything on your line besides your hook, your piece of fluorocarbon connected to your main line. That's fly lining. As soon as you put a weight on, any kind of weight, I don't care if it's a split shot or it's just a swivel, Dave, just to give me a little bit of better distance in casting, well, you're no longer fly lining. When you fly line, that bait has to be able to swim as natural as it possibly can. It is super, it is super important to make sure that there's nothing attached to your line but the hook, your line, and your reel. And then if you do that perfect and you have the right size hook, here's the hooks you should be carrying from now until the end of this summer. Number 2 and number 4, number 2-aught and 4-aught. Number 2 and number 4, number 2-aught, number 4-aught. Bronze or black. No more nickel-plated hooks, no more red hooks, no more blue hooks, orange hooks. Black or bronze. Number 2, number 4, and then a 2-aught and a 4-aught. Okay? Why? Well, we're going to be using anchovies or sardines mostly for the rest of the year. The water's getting very warm. I know they've been having some squid at Long Beach Bait and some squid over at Catalina, but as the water starts to warm up, that squid's probably going to be harder to get. So we're going to be looking at live bait fishing fly line sardines and anchovies are basically what we're going to get. So if we have the anchovies for bait, the size 2/0, or no, excuse me, the size 2 and the size 4 are the hooks you're going to want to be using. If you're fishing sardines, it's either going to be 4 to 5 inch sardines or it's going to be 6 to 8 inch sardines. The smaller hooks, the number 2/0 are going to be for the smaller sardines, and the 4/0 are going to be for that bigger sardine. But the color matters like you can't even comprehend. Think about it like this. I've been diving my whole life, and I have never, ever seen a fish swimming around with a big chunk of chrome hanging off his nose. I'm not talking about your lures or your trolling lures, or I'm talking about fishing with live bait. Bronze or black hooks, no nickel plated hooks. You don't want any nickel plated hooks. Why do we want no nickel plated hooks? Because the fish can see them. The fish see that nickel plated hook hanging off the end of their nose. They're not going to bite your bait. Okay? That's just the way it is. They're not going to bite your bait. So you got to make sure that you're not using nickel plated hooks, and you got to make sure you're using the size that the bait is. Those two things matter. Unbelievable, they matter. It's one of the most important things. It's one of the most important things is to match the hook to the size of the bait, and then to make sure that you're not using any type of weight on there, because then you're no longer fly lining. So you want to make sure that you have those two things going for you. Now it's going to be about the bait. When you go over to the bait tank, if you're on a sport boat, the places where they put the live bait that swims around, those are called troughs. On your private boat, you're probably going to use your net, but you're going to look into that bait tank, the troughs, or you're going to look into the net, and you're going to look for the bait. You're going to look down, and you're going to look for the bait that is the greenest bait. It can be a sardine, a mackerel, an anchovy. You want it lime green colored. You want it as green as it can possibly be. That's the bait that's going to get bit. And a lot of times it'll get bit right when you cast it in the water. The minute the bait hits the water, you got to bite. That's because that is the most liveliest bait in the bait tank. So when you throw it in there, it hits the water. It's swimming so fast that it's going to swim. The fish are going to go right after it. Because of the fact that it's swimming so fast, when it's swimming that fast, that fish has no choice. It's going to jump right in there, right after it as fast as it can, chasing that bait. It's going to be fired up. A lot of times you wouldn't even believe it when your bait hits the water. It's swimming so fast, it's pulling line off your reel. It gets bit instantly. It's crazy how fast that you'll get bit. A lot of guys don't even understand. They throw that really hot bait in the water and they're bit so fast they're not even ready for it. From today forward, when you throw your bait in the water, the minute you cast it out there, you already know you're going to get a bite, because of the fact that you have the right hook, the right line, and the right bait, because you spent a little extra time at the bait tank looking for the limest, greenest bait in the bait tank. So when you do that, you've just increased your chance of catching a fish like you can't even comprehend. You just increase the chance of catching a fish tenfold, because you have the right hook, the right line, and the right bait. Line, as far as line goes, you always want to make sure you have fluorocarbon. Now, I like to use Opsin Fluorocarbon. The reason being, it's a clear fluorocarbon. I know a lot of you, I only like to use pink and I only like to use blue. And well, it takes away what fluorocarbon is for. Fluorocarbon is because it's invisible. It doesn't reflect the light on the water. We're using it because it's almost invisible when it hits the water. Now, if we're going to use colored fluorocarbon, I don't know about you, but if I can see it, pink or blue, laying there in the water, I guarantee you that fish that's life depends on it is going to see it. This is clear. This is a clear fluorocarbon. It's almost impossible to see. When it hits the water, it is impossible to see. It's clear. That's why I love Opsin. Another really cool thing about the Opsin Fluorocarbon is the way it connects to the spools with their magnet. They have magnets on them, so all the spools hang out just like that. It's pretty clean, pretty cool way to do it. I've never seen it before until I saw the Opsin spools and the way that they do it. And you can stack these up on each other and the magnet makes them stick together. It's a pretty cool deal. You got to go check out Opsin. Go to their, grab that QR code I'm going to flash up on the screen here in a minute. And when you're checking out Opsin, gang, you're going to get, by using that QR code, just by entering the store, you're going to get entered into the contest to win a free spool of Opsin Fluorocarbon that we give away every Monday. We're giving away a spool today. We're going to give it away in just a few seconds. I'm going to give you away the name of the person that won. But you want to have Opsin Fluorocarbon connected to your hook because of the fact that it's invisible, it's clear, it's abrasion resistant. There has never been a time where I've been fishing and I caught 10 fish and I said, oh, I wish I didn't have fluorocarbon on my line. But there's many times where I've been fishing and I was like, dang, I wish I would have had some fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon makes your connection to the fish invisible. I'm telling you, this changes everything, just like the black or the bronze hooks, because when the black or the bronze hook hits the water, it's invisible. Same with the fluorocarbon. Opsin's a great product. It's spooled in America. It's made overseas, but it's actually spooled by Greg Brown and his family in their garage. They put it on these spools. These spools are bitchin'. They're magnetic. You don't even know. Greg Brown, he's a cool dude. You can see everything about him when you're on the website. You're supporting a family. Opsin's family owned right here right in Southern California. Not here, I'm in Cabo, but check out Opsin. Go to Opsin USA if you're on TikTok or Spotify or Apple or Megaphone. And those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you guys can grab that QR code. It's going to get you the free spool of line from Opsin Fluorocarbon. And the name of the person that won the spool of line, he visited the store last week. He didn't even buy a spool of line. I told you don't have to buy anything. You just have to go in and visit the store. Put in the code YSWG when you're wandering around, and Ellie will be able to track who you are. And just by entering the store, we know who you are. And today, Gavin Hall, you won the spool of line, buddy. Gavin Hall won the spool of line. That's going to be delivered right to your house. Gavin, when we're done, just text me your address. You'll get that spool of line. We give away a free spool of line every week, but check that out. And my good friend Marty is struggling hard to try to get on here with us. I can see him over there, but he can't figure out how to turn on the camera. And we had it all set up before. You have to do exactly the same thing you were doing before, Marty. You got to just go to that little cogwheel at the bottom there, that little cogwheel, and click on it and turn on your camera, because it's probably looking for a GoPro camera. Now you have to turn on your camera. You got to turn on your camera, my man. You got to turn on your camera. Check it out, buddy. You got to turn on your camera. And we'll get Marty on here in a few minutes, but we're still talking about how important it is to bait. You got to make sure you have the right bait, the most liveliest bait. There he is. He's back. Okay, we'll have him on here in a few minutes. Thanks, Marty. You did it. Look at you. You turned on your camera. You're growing up. Woo! I'm so proud of you. Yay! So look at, when you're at the bait tank, and I don't care if you're on your private boat or on the sport boat, bait matters. And if you see the guys that fish every day that are out there and they're catching all the fish, they're spending, it doesn't look like it, but they're spending a couple extra seconds at the bait tank. They're actually looking in there and they're looking for that one bait that's swimming around that's green. Now, if you're on a sport boat, let's just say you're on the Enterprise with Andy and you're looking at the troughs. That's where the little bait fish are swimming around. And the trough that you keep looking at doesn't have any green ones in it. It has a lot of blue ones, but it doesn't have a green one. Go to one of the other troughs, move around. Also, kind of be there when the deckhand dumps some more bait in the trough. And look, once you identify the green bait from the blue baits, a light bulb's gonna go off in your head. Then the last thing, you got to be able to cast. You got the right hook, you got the right fluorocarbon, you got the right bait, but you don't know how to cast. So you're pulling off a handful of line and dropping your bait next to the boat. You're not going to get a bite. You got to be able to cast. If you can't cast, all you have is conventional reels and you can't cast, then you need to get a spinning rod and reel. It's going to make all the difference in the world. The last thing you want to do when you go fishing is practice fishing. You want to kill fish when you go fishing. That's the only reason why we go. I don't buy into this catch, photograph, and release. That's not me. I've never been in that game. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. It sounds like a waste of time and energy. The limits have already been set, gang. There's no reason for you to think that you throwing back illegal fish is going to fix the whole world. It's not. You're not going to make the world a better place to live in. You're not going to make fishing life better. The limits have already been set. Scientists have thought about it, and then we took all the science and threw it in the trash, and then we took away our calico bass, sand bass, spotted bay bass on the same day, and we make them all be 14 inches. Now we have to kill 14 inches. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, but I didn't write the law, so I'm going to kill as many 14 inches as I can. But gang, because you throw back a legal size calico bass, that will not change fishing on the planet Earth. It's just not going to. You throw back a legal barracuda, you're not going to change fishing on the planet Earth. You throw back a marlin, you're not going to change fishing on the planet Earth. I know you want to get that warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart. Oh, I threw back a fish. I'm going to make it all better. Well, you're not. It's not going to change anything. And how many people, there's Marley jumping around in the back. He just got done eating his candy. Gang, how many people in your neighborhood or how many friends of yours that know that you go fishing ask you, hey, do you have any extra fish? And you're out there throwing legal fish back. How dare you? Your friends are starving. Don't throw legal fish back. That's crazy. On that note, I'm going to bring in one of my very best friends, one of my pals, one of my longtime buddies who loves to kill fish almost as much as I do. There he is. Marty, welcome to the show, buddy.
What's up, Dave? How are you, buddy?
Hey, thanks for joining us. It's so
cool that I'm not a computer guy by any means, but I'm here. I made it.
You are. Yeah, you are.
Right.
Yeah. So we're talking about what fly lining and how important it is. Those aspects you heard me talking about: the size of the hook, the type of the line, the fluorocarbon, the bronze or black hooks, no chrome. Do you tie chrome plated hooks on?
No.
But you used, when we were little kids, we did.
Yeah, that's what we had back then. Oh yeah, I remember fishing for bluefin with number 6 hooks, little tiny with pinhead anchovies back in the day, right?
Oh yeah.
And you were talking. It really is a huge deal. As we were talking about the bait tank and looking for that bait. That's night and day. That's your whole deal right there. If you don't have, like you said, you don't have a good bait in one hand, well, go or even ask the deckhand, hey, can you scoop me up a few more baits in here? So it's worth taking the time to pick that bait that's gonna catch a fish. You can use a black sardine. It ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and then just grabbing a bait out of the tank and pinning it on and throwing it out there, you're not going to get a bite.
No. The one that you can't catch in the bait tank is the one you want.
Something.
Go ahead.
That I tell everybody, I can't leave a bait out there for 30 seconds. I got ADD, gang. So
right.
I grab a bait out of the bait tank. It looks good. It looks good to me. I hook it on. I cast it out there. It hits the water. If it doesn't start taking line off my reel right away, guess what?
It's not the bait. Yeah, right.
He's getting wound in, flicked off. Another bait's getting put on. I can go through 5 baits in less than a minute, no problem.
And where you want to cast where the deckhand's chumming too. That's another big deal. And like you said, if you can't cast a bait, try butt hooking it and pull a little line out and underhand it. And you know what? A butt hook bait's going to swim down and away from the boat 99% of the time. If it swims back to the boat, well, it's a good bait. But rip it off and get another bait. Yeah, I'm not a big soaker guy either. If you don't get a bite within 30 seconds, you wind it in and try it all again.
For years and years, I would stand on the bait tank chumming when I was running the sport boats, and I would say over and over again, gang, you got to change your bait. You got to change your bait. You got to change your bait. And I wasn't saying that because I had a whole bunch of extra words. It's because it's the very most important thing. If you look at the guys on the sport boats when you go fishing, those of you that don't have your private boat, Those guys that are getting bit every time, they take that extra time at the bait tank, but they do not stand there with a bait out there
No,
for 20 minutes.
no. Or hold on to the bait in the bait tank with their hands. That's not going to do you any good. Put it on and throw it out. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, hey, since we got you here, and I just want to share a little bit. So, Marty, you've been
Yeah.
in this industry as almost as long as I have. The only reason I've been here longer is because I'm older. But
There.
where did you start at? Let's talk a little bit about who you are and where
Okay.
you came from.
I started back after Arch Landing sold out, and it was Newport Landing. I started on the Southern Cal, a half day boat, when I was 16 years old, and that was back with Craig Jacob, Beaker, T. Lee, Chris Goebel, Chris Eyrig, a lot of old time guys who in Newport there. Corby worked at Davies Locker there at the time, and Brockman was on the Sport Fisher, which I worked on the freelance for 13 years with Brockman, and I tell you what, that guy, it wasn't the easiest working for him, but I tell you what, that guy could fish like no other. He was a sonar guru that had one of the first sonars on sport boats, and Donnie was a hell of a fisherman. He really was. I mean, he's good. He could really get you on the fish. Back in the days where get 700-800 barracuda on the boat, and 700-800 sand bass in a good day, and it was it was different back then, though. It was a lot different, and times have changed. Everybody wants to go catch a big trophy, and I get it, but that was fun fishing back then. And like the overnight trips back when I was a kid, guys used to go overnight fishing for calico bass. If you caught a couple of yellowtail, it was a great trip. But
Right.
people used to catch calico bass and have a great time doing it, and that's kind of, I don't know. It's just things are different now. Everybody wants the big hit, and I get it, but it's fun fishing. Any kind of fishing, if you're catching, is fun for me. And we were talking like I do commercial fishing most of the time now. I still love, my roots are sport fishing, and I love doing it, and I do it as often as I can. But right now, the albacore up north are still off the beach a ways. It's starting to get closer, and that's why I'm back down in SoCal for a week or two. And the water's warming up. It's been a weird spring, early summer here. It's a lot of cold water, and but it's starting to shape up a little bit. Probably head back up, like I said, in a week or two, and see. Hopefully, go get a trip in and keep going at it for the rest of the summer there. But yeah, no, the sport fishing deal. Like I said, I worked on the freelance for 13 years, and ran, in between ran some light boats for Brockman there. It seemed like back then I always picked the wrong year to do it, but that's fishing. But I've been on a light boat the last 3 or 4 years there. We it's been some good fishing. We made some money there, and then I worked for Joe Berrien on bongos for God, I don't know how many, a lot of years, and that was fun. That was my type of deal, going offshore and going fast, covering a lot of water. And Joe was a great guy. One of the best guys I ever worked for was Joe Berrien. Really good, down to earth guy. He had a good thing going there on bongos, and they still do. They still got a good operation. Mike Mongol owns the Bongos 3 now, and they still have the 2 boat there. But it's a good, it's a good operation. I mean, they do a lot of offshore fishing and stuff like that, and that's my right up my alley is the offshore deal. And guys go offshore fishing, they think that they need to find a big giant pile of birds, or they have to do this or that, or look for other boat. Go out and go fishing. If you see it, don't pass nothing up. In my book, when you're offshore fishing, you can't pass nothing up. If you have a question in your mind about it, try it. What's it going to hurt? You know what I mean? You're out there anyway. You might as well give it a shot. You see something floating. If like last year, the Dorado were in heavy, dude, you could stop on a freaking somebody's hat that they left fell off their head in the water. You get bit. You don't know. You don't know if you don't try it. One turnbird we were talking about earlier. It goes a long way. It could be 100 tons of fish underneath one bird. It doesn't have to be up foaming with 5,000 turnbirds on it. Not at all. Little things like that go a long way. I did some long range fishing there on the Polaris Supreme for a couple summers with Tommy Rothery, which was another fun deal. Lejos rocks, stuff like that. It's I worked with Mike Bullard on the Pacific Star, which is now the Poseidon. very nice boat, beautiful boat. Mike's a great guy. Things happen in our lives and stuff, changes. But, I've been around a lot of good people and a lot of good fishermen. And, it's in your blood. You keep doing it, That's,
Yeah, but you jumped out real fast here and we skipped over a lot of stuff. You
that's how I roll.
at Newport Landing back in the day, Tommy Hesketh had it
That's
down
him.
there, and you were
Tommy.
working on the sport boats, and you were just a young guy working on the sport boats down there. But how fun was it hanging out down there in Newport in those days? It was a totally different world than it is
Totally
today.
different. Yeah, totally different world. Back then Newport Landing and Davies Locker were rivals. Now they're all one big happy family, which is cool. But back then, like I said, things have changed so much from back then. It was just having the pleasure of working on a sport boat went a long way back then. And it gets in your blood, and it's like some of the best fishermen, like Craig Jacobs. He ran the Thunderbird for years and years. That guy, one of the best fishermen I know, and I started fishing with him and Goebel and T. Lee, the rest his soul. But those guys, it's fun back then. It was different. It was, and I always tell these other guys I'd work with, don't think you're better than the other guys on the boat. Just because you know how to fish. Some of these people come out once or twice a year, man. Show them a good time. Just because hook and hand them a fish, dude, that goes a long way. Show them how to do it. Don't expect them to just know, dude. People don't know. They go out fishing. They want to. They're not pros, but make it a good time for them. They bring a couple kids out. I used to have guys come out on the boat and they'd hand them $50 or hey, make sure my kids have a good time, and I would do it regardless of the tip.
Right.
That makes the whole thing. That makes you feel good. I remember, here's a little quick story. We had a charter on the Freelance. It was the Daiwa Corporation. And there was a few, they brought all this light bass gear, brand new pro whatever the Daiwa reels back then. And this lady hooked, we had like 4 tuna. I think Brockman might've been running the boat. Global was. We had 4 fish on the boat, and lady hooks up, goes under the, from the starboard corner, goes midship there and gets hung up on the rudder. I take my boots off, jump over the side, which I don't suggest anybody doing that. And I'm out in the water there trying to get her line off the rudder, and I couldn't do it. I kept swimming down as far as I could. Then I just told Goebel, "Hey, hand me the rod," and I pointed the rod straight down, got it off for her. The lady ends up landing the fish. Oh man, they were stoked. They gave us all brand new rods and reels, and it was a good one of those memories that we could sit here and talk fishing memories forever, but just little stuff like that. And then you could sit here and talk forever like that on special moments in fishing, and there's millions of them, millions of them. And that's the beauty of the sport fishing industry is you go out and people and just good times, and even if you don't catch fish, which it's fishing, there's no guarantee.
See the comment right there?
What's the biggest fish you caught off the dock? Oh man. So back in the day, we used to catch big bat rays in the harbor when there were squid in the receivers. But I don't know, biggest fish I've caught off a dock. There's been quite a few. We used to catch lots of fish in the harbor off the dock.
Well, back in those days, we used to fish all night.
All night. Twilight would come in. We'd sit there and we'd wide open short sea bass and halibut, all kinds of. Back when we had anchovies.
It was a great way to grow up as a child down there in the harbor, and
yeah.
There was no child labor laws back in those days, Marty.
No.
People don't understand. Like, you threw out some numbers that are just kind of overwhelming for most people. They don't even believe when we tell them 700-800 barracuda, 700-800 bass every single day.
Every single day
on a 3/4 day boat. My buddy Don Brockman, that we both love very, very much, he taught both of us a lot. He taught me a ton about business besides the fishing, which he's a phenomenal fisherman, but he taught me a ton about business. But I'm telling you, that young man made $1 million fishing barracuda at Catalina.
We almost made $1 million working for him.
Except we had a horrible problem.
Yeah, right. We'd spend it all when we got back to the dock too. That was the problem.
Yeah, if you had When Marty and I grew up, if we woke up in the morning with money in our pockets, it would mean we had a terrible night.
Wake up. We just go to work still awake.
Oh my gosh, so crazy, gang.
Crazy.
You don't understand. There was no labor law. There was nothing. There was no minimum wage. You went to work on the boats. We never think about this. We never even thought what we were making a day.
No.
You just were
if it wasn't for the tips, the daily wages wouldn't have made it. You wouldn't have survived if you didn't make tips. So that's another thing is always tip the crew, guys. Always tip the crew. That's a huge one right there.
But if they think back, like you said, something about working on a sport boat, as back in those days as kids, man, when you walked around the harbor with your boots on, you just felt like you were like a little bit better than the rest of the people walking around.
Right. Yeah. Especially if they were old boots with lots of blood on them. Your shirt.
Gosh, yeah.
That was always a thing too, David. A good way to get a good bite the next day is put a nice white shirt on that someone gave you the day before. By the time that you get a good day, there ain't a white spot left on it.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing. You knew you were going to get bit if you had clean clothes on.
You knew it. It was just inevitable. But it's the thing is though, Dave, is nowadays, people don't realize like the bluefin fishery now, unbelievable, dude, unbelievable. These guys who just started fishing 7-8 years ago, this stuff was non-existent. It would barely make it across the border without nets going around it. And the stuff that did make it across the border was so skittish you couldn't get near it,
Right.
Yeah, and now it's just everywhere, dude. I mean, the stuff is just everywhere, all the way up to Frisco right now. They're getting it some at Fort Bragg. I mean, just crazy. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. I mean, it's something that we never grew up with. I remember the El Nino of I think it was 83, 84, something like that. Those giant albacore that were in the channel. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. 60, 70, 80 pound. Who knows? There were some big fish there. And I think I fished with I was with Peterson on the Sport King, and I had one for like an hour and a half they only eating light line, small hooks. Had him on for an hour and a half, and he chewed me off like 10 feet away. But yeah, that's fishing. But it was something you'll never forget,
Another thing you talked about, because you were throwing so much stuff out there when they were telling about yourself, you ran light boats. A lot of our guys don't understand what that is. There's a lot of people. We get about 2,000 to 3,000 people watching this thing live every day. What's a light boat? What do you mean?
Light boat is so when you're commercial squid fishing, a light boat is a boat that assists the catch, excuse me, of a seiner. So a light boat will sit in a spot and turn his lights on. Hopefully, a decent spot is the way to go. But turn your lights on, and what happens is that seiner either gets close to you, and he can turn his lights on and kind of work a spot together. And then when it's time to make a set, that seiner will go dark, and he'll set you. As I pull my anchor up, and you kind of, as he's pursing his net up, getting the rings up, which is kind of a lot to tell people at the time. But what they do is they pull a purse line in, and it closes the net up, and you move the fish into the back of the net or in the bag, up closer to stopping.
We don't even know what fish you're talking about. We don't know what the hell you mean. Why are the fish coming to the light? What's all that about?
Well, they because they like the light. Well, I guess they say that they think it's a I don't know. They are attracted to light.
Who is?
What's that?
What is?
The squid.
Squid. There you go. We
Yeah.
didn't know what you were talking about.
Oh, okay. All right. Darn it. See, you got to fill me in on this stuff, Dave. That's why you're here.
I'm trying.
Yeah, but light boat deal is it ain't easy. You're on a boat for sometimes weeks at a time. A couple years back, I was at Clemente for like 3.5 weeks, and the only good thing, the yellows were biting in the cove every morning. So, but it can be lucrative. It can be a good way to make money, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. You have to definitely be dedicated to it and put your time in for sure. There's a lot of good operators out there, and then again, there's some not so good operators. I thank God that I'm a sober man nowadays, because I don't think I would be able to do what I do now if I wasn't sober. And I put a lot of that I put sobriety first in my life because that's what's got me to where I'm at today. You know.
Well, you and I wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
We're still breathing,
Yes,
right? No, I don't mean to get too far ahead there, Dave. I you know, I'm new to this, so
yeah. Well, that's okay.
Hold my hand.
So, gang, what Marty's talking about is he's been in this industry his whole life, and whatever he can do to try to make a living. So he was running these light boats. They go out to San Clemente, Catalina, wherever, light up the water. And when they light up the water with these big giant, like if you would think about the baseball stadium lights, they light up the water with these giant lights. The squid congregates underneath this giant light. And then they sit there for days. If you get a good spot, like Marty was saying, the person or the company that you're working for, the last thing they want you to do is leave. And it's the weirdest thing because, and Marty will talk more about it in a second, but you can be on this thing all day long and see nothing on your meter. And as soon as it gets dark,
exactly,
Marty has his giant lights on, because you don't turn them on when it gets dark. You already have them on. As soon as it gets dark, out of nowhere, we used to say it materializes out of the sand. I don't know as much about it as Marty does. Marty spent, like you said, 3 weeks, a month at a time staring at the meter, the fish finder, and the water. And all of a sudden, the squid would come, tons of it. Just to describe that for me, because guys, there's a lot of people here that have no idea what we're talking about.
So, you know, it's funny, Dave. It's funny you mentioned that because last summer I was lucky enough to have the only spot at Catalina, and I was the boat I ran was there for 3 months. And like I said, just like you were explaining, the daytime you couldn't snag a squid. I mean, I was on a nest, but after it got dark, I mean, this went on for 2.5 months, 3 months. Right when it get dark, the fish would move in every night. And I was on a nest. So the guys on my port side, you know, you get 1/8 of a mile. That's in squid fishing. Every boat has a radius of 1/8 of a mile that's theirs. Okay. If another boat gets on their line or inside the line, they say, get on the radio. Hey, dude, you're a little bit inside my line. You know, in a perfect world, they pull their anchor and they move outside your 1/8. You know, you get it on your radar. Anyway, the guys would go on my port side, my starboard side, they wouldn't catch a pound. And it went like that for months this last summer. And we didn't have to go to Monterey, which is usually the other summertime place to catch squid. My boat sat at Catalina for the boat I ran for three months. And it was all right. We had 350, 400 tons, something like that for the summer, which is, you know, not gangbusters, but it paid the bills. You know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Think about it for a minute. Think about this, gang. He's sitting on a spot. They don't move the boat at all, not even a tiny bit.
Not even a tiny bit.
And as soon as it would get dark, the squid would materialize out of nowhere. Then when it would get light out in the morning, they wouldn't leave on the boat. The boat stays right there on that spot. And then you kind of breezed over 350, 400 tons, gang, tons. Yeah. We're talking tons of squid materializes out of thin air. It's the craziest thing.
Crazy.
And until you've actually done it and seen it, it doesn't make any sense. And we got people driving their cars, listening to us on Spotify right now, Marty, and just think about them that they don't know what we're talking about. Just explain.
I want to add one quick thing, Dave, is you know, when I say 350, 400 tons of fish, it sounds like, oh my God, you guys are raping the ocean, this and that. That ain't the case. Squid they spawn one time. They come to the lights when they're spawning. They lay their eggs and they're dead in 3 days. So you might as well capitalize on the resource, because it's just going to be a wasted resource if you don't put it in the net anyway. You know what I mean? You're feeding the world with this stuff, and it just dies after it spawns anyway. So,
and it didn't hurt anything. It actually, when they started to commercial fish this squid, it actually made it healthier. It made the ocean healthier, because if you think of 350, 400 ton, what that, for you and me, that we know that's a small amount of squid in the big world of squid.
Oh yeah.
But let's just say 400 tons of squid dead on the bottom of the ocean. That's not good for the ocean. No. It's toxic down there. So it's actually mopping up the bottom of the ocean, keeping it clean. And like Marty was just saying, they would catch all of it that night that was there. And then the next day, as soon
Here
as
it
it
comes
would get
again.
dark,
Here it comes again. Yeah, it's coming back.
and in the years of you doing this, what was the biggest night you had? With your seiner, the seiner comes in and sets Marty. What's the most they caught one night, one boat?
Well, it was more than one seiner. I
Okay,
think I believe it was at Santa Rosa Island, or no, Santa Cruz Island 2 years ago. I had a night for like 240 tons
and one night,
one night.
one boat, lighten up
No,
the
no, no,
water.
no. Filled up my boat. Filled
No,
up
no,
a
no.
couple. Yeah,
But
there
under
was.
your boat, underneath one boat.
Yeah, one boat, one spot. Yeah. Which there's guys out there. There's some guys that have had 700-800 ton nights. And
Okay, we need to know
but
that.
hey, I'm not I'm just, I'll take 240 tons any day of the week.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
absolutely, yeah. And but squid's is a mysterious deal. It's it like the El Nino years. Not a big fan of the squid. Is not a big fan of El Nino years. They stay out in the deep and spawn. They don't come in shallow because the water's warm, and hopefully that isn't the case here, because that's usually my wintertime gig, is running a light boat. So, and hopefully the albacore cooperate. I've got quite a bit of money invested in a boat up north right now, and I'm hoping it's going to pan out. It will.
Right.
It will. You just got to put your time in, and I'll probably be going up there, like I said, in a week. It's funny, as we're talking about past places I've worked and this and that. You remember the old sport boat, the Tracer?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I was walking up the dock last week and I seen this boat called the Legends, and it was Sean Towbridge bought the old Tracer and is fixing it up for a sport boat up in Oahu, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. He's done a lot of good work on it, and he'll be if anybody's up in Oahu wanting to go sport fishing here after the end of July, he'll be up there. Give him a holler. The boat's called the Legends, and he's a good fisherman. Him and his son are going to do it. And Sean's another sober guy, which so being sober is a big thing on the water nowadays. I mean, there's this. It's not about. It's not about. It's just. This is how I have to live my life nowadays. I can't do it if I'm not sober. I see a post on here that says, "What about Humboldt squid, Marty?" Humboldt squid. Well, Dave probably knows. We caught them, I don't know how long ago, 10, 12 years ago, right in front of Newport. They were 40, 50 pound, 5-foot squid, and they're a kind of a nasty deal in my book. They eat everything in the water. They eat each other. You'd be reeling one in and they would eat each other on the way in. So
Yeah, and these squid are 40, 50, 60 pounds.
yeah. Yeah. And if you fell over the side, they would eat you. I'm just saying, they would try to. And
Absolutely. We're going to answer this question for Brian real quick, and then we're going to go into something else that's kind of
sure,
important right now. What do you
sure.
think of the squid eggs? What happens to those?
Well, they lay in a big cluster on the bottom. They don't go down in the sand. They just kind of lay on top. They all lay them together, so it's like a big flower type deal, a big huge cluster of eggs that just lay on the bottom.
And they just roll around until they
Roll
hatch.
around, and I guess they hatch real quick. They don't take too long to hatch out, and they start their journey again. I think they only live about 9 months, something like that. And they do it all again, and then they're gone. They die, they spawn and they die. So to harvest them before they die is a good deal, I think.
Oh, it's an absolutely phenomenal deal. Since that whole commercial squid fishing thing started in California, it's made it super healthy no matter what anyone
Yeah.
says. It's made it a very, very healthy fishery. And it's all, like you said, it's all cycles. And it's all about temperature of the water.
Exactly.
And it's all about whatever the current's doing and the temperature of the water, but there's always squid somewhere. It moves around. It's somewhere. It just didn't disappear. It'll come back. It'll go away. It'll come back. It doesn't make any sense. There's plenty of nests out there that no one even located.
Oh, there's it's crazy because like last summer, all the bluefin they were catching out on the 499 and the con, all those, they're loaded with squid. Just deep water. There's no high. Very. I mean, there's just a lot of it around. There could, nobody knows. That's the thing about this stuff. Nobody knows how much there is or where it's going to show up next.
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah.
So, gang, we brought Marty on here because of the fact that he's home for a little while and he's going to be at the dock here. But we're going to take advantage of Marty. We are going to take advantage of him while he's here for a couple of weeks, gang. Justin is booked up solid. He's got nothing available for this month of July. Marty's going to be here for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. It all depends on this albacore bite.
Right.
But gang, Marty's been in this industry his whole life, run the bongos, worked on the bongos, freelance, light boats. He's willing to go for the next few days with anybody that wants him to come with you on your boat. You want to go learn how to fish Catalina? Marty fished Catalina for 30 years, every single day. Yeah. You want to go learn how to fish Clemente? You want to go learn how to fish this bluefin? You want to learn how to fly the kite? You want to do whatever you want to do. You ever catch any sea bass, Marty?
Not today, but I have.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do. You want to go learn how to catch squid at night at Catalina? You want to go see what's going on? You want to go do something crazy? Justin's booked solid. Sonny's booked solid. We have nothing available. Marty just rolled into town, called me yesterday, or I called him on his birthday.
Yep.
And he's willing to go with you guys on your boat. So look it. Marty's going to give his phone number right now. You can call him up. You can shoot the crap with him. You can talk to him. If you don't want to hire him, still talk to him about what's going on and where you should go and what you should do. Marty is the same as me, same as Justin, same as Sonny. When we call the guys that run the boats every day, they actually answer our calls. So right. Marty's got inside information from the guys that are doing it every day that you can't get. Call right. Marty. Go ahead and throw your phone number out there. Let them know. Newport, Long Beach.
Wherever. We'll travel. Let's go catch something. 714-296-9474. I'd love to go fishing. Love to go catching. Anytime.
Say that number. Slow down. Say it real slow and easy, gang. Listen.
714-296-9474.
And gang, getting Marty, getting Justin, getting Sonny to come with you on your boat, even if you think you are the greatest fisherman in the world, it's so cool to get someone to come out that knows how to use your fish finder, that knows how to tune it up, knows how to use it, knows how to tell you that, hey, everything you're doing is right, or maybe everything you're doing isn't right. But to have a professional willing to come with you on your boat and teach you how to do it, that's why we're busy every single day. That's why Justin's busy. That's why Sonny's busy. I'm just blessed that Marty's here. And I know some of you are going to call him up. You want to get out there. You want to go do it. And if you want to go with someone who knows Newport like the back of his hand, and you're not going to stop at the fuel dock or anywhere and not 15 people are going to say, Marty.
Gary Hill's a great guy. Right.
And the bait barge, everybody knows Marty. Marty's been around for a very, very long time. Everyone knows him. And like he said, and I say, we're sober. So you're going to be safe when you have us with you.
That's a huge thing, Dave. It really is. And I thank God and people who are in the program to keep me sober, because I saw there was a little meeting. I mean, I'm not supposed to have anonymity, but little meeting up in Oaxaca that was really cool to go to. 7-8 guys bitching,
It's the best.
It is.
Did you hear what Harry just said?
Bullard. Oh yeah, Bullard's a great guy. I worked with him on the Pacific Star for years. Great dude, but being sober is a big thing.
we all have our demons.
Not a lot of that was going on with Mike. I hate to say it. Great guy, but we weren't real sober back then. Trust me, but I worked with Bullard for quite a long time. Good guy.
Yeah. No, he's a great human. We love Mike.
Yeah.
He's a great human. We all have our demons. He's a phenomenal human being. So let's just talk a little bit. Let's just get everybody a little wound up, a little bit excited about what's going on right now. Right. So in Long Beach right now, outside of Long Beach Harbor and the flats, and also out on the Horseshoe, here we go. We haven't seen this fish in a very, very long time. We kind of breezed over it a bit. The barracuda are here, and they're thick. Yep. They're thick.
Yep. And they're catching sand bass with it too,
And the sand bass, the spawning sand bass are there in the mud.
Right.
It's
That's a good
crazy.
thing. It's a good thing to see. It's been a long time.
And that's a healthy fishery. And did you ever do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's some of the best times, really, catching just, Brockman was the man doing that. Especially we'd be heading to Catalina and we'd find the birds, giant, not just a little bird school. I'm talking miles, barracudas flipping out of the water for miles and miles. And then that stuff would move into the beach and start spawning, and we'd sit there for months, 2 months. I mean, everybody we within lined up in the mud, just slaughtering fish. It was fun stuff.
It was an amazing fishery, but it's back. It's happening. We haven't seen it for 15 or 20 years, and it's
Right?
biting right now. And
Yep.
I don't know how long it'll last, but gang, you can take
advantage of it now. Yeah.
Take him out with you on your boat. Go check it out. Go see what it's all about. He knows that area. And then, gang, if you just want to go learn Catalina, like Marty and I were saying earlier, the days that we come with you on your boat are the days you don't want the fish to bite.
Right.
It doesn't make sense if you think about it. You're like, wait a minute. No, I want them. No, you don't. Because if they bite, when we get over to Catalina, we're only going to learn one spot. You're not going to learn anything. You
Right.
want to bounce, bam, 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 bounce up the backside of the island, learn all the names of all the spots, learn why. Why is Marty swinging you in here to look at this beach? Why is he swinging you over here to look at this kelp line? All those things matter. But if you get over to Catalina and they're biting, you don't learn anything. Now, if you go offshore and you wail on the bluefin on the first breezer you see, then you learn nothing. You want it to be a rough day where it takes 10, 12 hours to get that bite. Right. So you get to see all the different things that he's doing out there with you on your boat. I'm just the thing that Justin and the thing that Sonny and I've been doing it for so long, I understand. The last thing we want is the fish to bite. Justin and Sonny are starting to learn how important that is, that they're guys that are paying you money don't get to learn anything if they bite that first time you drop the anchor. One anchor drop and it's
right.
You didn't learn anything. You want to be able to go move around.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes, fishing, sometimes you fish all day and it's your last spot. I mean, I've had numerous times. Here's a quick story for you. I was on the bongos too on a little goof off with my kids, and a buddy of mine went over to Catalina. We fished hard all day. They had to get back to school for the next day, so I had them set up on the flyer. I dropped them off in Avalon, took the flyer back, and I told my buddy, I'm going to try one more, dude, before we go in, because we fished our butts off all day. Went right there at the corner at Catalina on the front side, Seal Rocks, one of my favorite spots, and wind against current, the current's smoking up the island and the wind's blowing the other direction. I was so fed up. I'm like, oh, I'm tired of these sea bass. I put the rod in the rod holder with the white jig of the squid on it, because that's the only thing that would make it to the bottom. The current was going so fast, and it was just full speed. They came through and bit every bait in the water. My kids are going back home on the flyer, but that's fishing,
Yes, it is.
It was, but they understand fishing. I've taken them all three of my kids out. My oldest son is a commercial fisherman in Dutch Harbor right now, and I was lucky enough to go up there and see my newest grandbaby, Ella Marie, which is awesome, and I put that all on sobriety too, man. I wouldn't, I'm a good grandpa now this day and age, and it's a good feeling that I can do that,
Oh, absolutely.
You're a grandpa too.
Oh yeah, a couple times, and there's nothing better.
Yeah, you're a lot older.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, that's funny.
But one thing too that we need to talk about real quick before we wrap this thing up is this offshore thing has got a bunch of people bamboozled, because Marty, what you'll back me up on this thing. Nobody's posting any reports of not catching.
Right.
You're only seeing the guys that are catching.
Oh,
gang.
yeah.
This offshore thing is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want all of you beating yourselves up because you're not going out there and setting the world on fire. Marty summed this up a little bit. He spun over it real quick. One little bird.
One bird. And the thing, okay, one turn bird, don't pass it up. go check it out. Throw some bait on that one-turn bird or in the general area. And another thing too, with bluefin tuna, here's a huge one. Put this in your notepad. It don't matter if it's crystal clear blue water or shit green water that you can't see your hand through. It don't matter. If the bait's there and the tuna are close to, it don't matter if it's green water, red water, blue water, anything with bluefin tuna. If the bait's there and they want to eat it, they'll be there. So don't ever pass up like you're coming out of Dana Point Harbor or Newport Harbor a couple miles and you see, well, it might be this or might be that. Check it out because it might be what you hope it to be. Many, many times guys overshoot fish that are right there right on the beach, you know. And it doesn't have to be cobalt blue water. You can catch those things, 200-pound fish in green water. Don't matter.
Exactly. But on one say it doesn't matter, but on the other side, everything matters. And yeah. Justin's watching us. Justin's one of our guides that works with us, Marty. Right. You haven't met him yet, but he's good. And he was out a month and a half ago and saved the whole day. And it was a long, long day.
Right.
And he saw one turn bird.
Right.
And he went over there and they threw the Mad Mac in the water and bam, they got 130 something or 140-pound bluefin. Made the whole trip, even though they spent 13 hours catching zero.
One turn bird. That's it. That's all it takes.
Don't give up, gang, and don't get all wound up because you're not catching. Marty, you fished for a living for a long time. What do we hate? We hate bluefin.
I hate them. You can see millions of them, you know, hundreds of tons of them and never get a nibble out of them. You know, maybe you'll snag one in a foamer every once in a while, but when they don't want to bite, they don't want to bite. That's just how bluefin are, you know.
That's what I used to tell people when they go, Dave, why do you use 200-pound braid? And why do you use 130 Machaira? And why do you use 48 pounds of drag? And why do you not take it out of the rod holder? Because I hate them. I absolutely hate them. Hate them.
Yeah.
And if it bites my line, it needs to die. I'm sorry. I'm not that guy.
You know, it's
call my HR after this podcast. You call my HR department. You're a saltwater guide. I will answer the phone and I will explain it to you. We've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on fuel chasing these stupid fish.
Right.
And when you finally get
you know what's funny too, Dave, is back when we were youngsters, they didn't have rods and reels like this, dude. You wouldn't land stuff like this back in those days without throwing 2 or 3 rods in the water. You know?
Right.
Yeah. They didn't have Spectra. We had Dacron, but that's
and a 6-aught.
Yeah, 6-aught with a 2-to-1 gear ratio. You know, basically.
And we were out there doing it every day, trying to do it just like we're doing today, but we didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of catching them. Now that we do, I can't even comprehend all this. Oh, I want to stand up in the rod. Oh, I want to hold the pole. I want to fight.
No, you don't. Good luck.
You ever loving mind?
Yeah.
You get a bite, kill that sucker.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to stand up. And if you do, hey, if there's a couple guys out there that can catch a couple 200-pounders standing up, hey, dude, the trophy's coming your way. Trust me. Yeah, me and my son one time on his 20-foot skipjack, we caught 4 or 5 over 100, and we tore both his rod holders out of his skipjack, ripped them right out of the glass. Yeah.
Then you had to hold the rods.
Oh, you had to hold them, dude. Cody, you're holding it this time, dude. Yeah. Funny stuff.
Dad's way too smart nowadays to hold that rod.
Yeah.
Gang, we're going to kick this thing. We've been going for an hour. I can't believe it went that long and that fast. But one more time, Marty, somebody out there needs you to come with them on their boat. So give Marty a call. Like I said, he's here for about a week and a half.
Yep. 714-296-9474.
And call him. You got more questions about what we talked about today? You just want to talk to a really cool guy who's totally sober and one of my really, really good friends. Whenever we see each other, it's just like the old days. We're back there.
Right.
I love you, Marty. I want to thank you so much for being on this show with me today. Right. Thank you so much. This has been so fun. I hope you had a good time.
God bless, man. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, everybody out there, make sure you check out Opsin Fluorocarbon. Thank you, Greg, for everything you do. Guys, go to Opsin USA or check out the QR code that I flash up on the screen here right now. Jump on there. We're going to give away another spool of line Monday. All you have to do is go over there and check out the store. Elliot can figure out who you are. The best way is go through that QR code right there and flash it on the screen. Those of you on Spotify, Megaphone, and Apple Podcasts, it's Opsin USA. Opsin USA. That's how you get there. Thank you, everybody, for the show today. Marty, thank you very, very much.